When the music fades and all is stripped away, what are we left of? Our bare selves. Naked we came into this world, and naked we shall return. Good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacou, PD, Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, to you wherever you are. Special good morning to our listeners on GBN's channel. Well, that's classic 105.5 and 105.9. I say now a special good morning to our viewers on GBN's channel 7, channel 11, and channel 20. And those of you that's joining us via the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd or via our social media platforms, being Facebook or our YouTube channel. It's a wonderful, a glorious Monday morning. It's the 25th day of the month of October, Thanksgiving Monday as it is. And certainly, whether you believe in me, you believe it or not, we are giving thanks. Thanks for a whole lot of things. I know when it comes to a history, we may find ourselves on a different historical perspective. But I submit to you today the fact that I'm alive, you're alive, you're hearing me, I'm hearing you. I'm seeing you, Mr. Thomas, I'm seeing you, Mr. Bullen. Today we are going to give thanks together with the rest of Grenada. And wherever you are across the region and other parts of the diaspora, we say good morning and welcome and happy Thanksgiving Day. Just to get things started, special programming here for you, and just to give you a sense and appreciation of what's going to happen today. Today, as we reflect on our lives, the events of what is considered one of the darker periods in our history, certainly we take the time to reflect introspectively. Sometimes we reflect and see everything else, but I want us to just take an introspective look. It's for introspection and education, because while there are those who are fully aware of the details of our past, there's a generation that seems lost and not know much about what has transpired in the past 38 years. So we're not just giving God thanks for where we are now, but we also want to give God thanks for COVID-19, not for COVID-19, but the way we've managed COVID-19, and certainly looking at the latest dashboard, as was Sunday, as yesterday, we had 2 new cases, taking our total active cases to 131. We've had 2 recoveries, and we're certainly grateful that we are managing. We are doing well. We want to encourage you, though, do not become complacent. Remember the protocols and everything else that you need to keep yourself in check. Yes? You want to make sure that you do this. I want to share this piece with you as we get into this morning's conversations. It is often said that history is written by the victor. And very often that's a quote that is often most remembered by former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. But it is, in fact, history is written by the victors. The quote gets attributed to Winston Churchill, but its origin is unknown. It implies that history is not grounded in facts. It implies that history is not grounded in facts. Rather, it's the winner's interpretation of them that prevails. The victors can force their narrative down the throat of individuals. Actually, there might be multiple interpretations, but the term winner itself is ambiguous, as is so often it is just an assumption. While we are there, we're going to just look at the tip of the day. The thought of the day, If history repeats itself and the unexpected always happens, how incapable must man be of learning from his experience? If history repeats itself and the unexpected always happens, the realization is, how incapable man must be of learning from his experience. And one of the things that makes us who we are, human beings, Homo sapiens, is our ability to learn from our mistakes, adapt from our past experiences, and move on. And today, if after 38 years we have not learned anything, it means we have not learned, we are incapable of learning from our mistakes, and then we have to question our right to be at the top of the food chain as human beings. With that being said, I want to take the opportunity to introduce my 2 guests at this time. First, I want to start with former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, and I want to say thank you, sir, for accepting the invitation. And I want to say a special thanks to Mr. Lyle Bullen on the sister isle of Carriacou. To you wonderful gentlemen, good morning. Thanks for waking up bright and early. Haven't smelled either the coffee, the cocoa, the big time, the lemongrass, or whatever it is that you smelled, and you're up and about. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning to you, Mr. Cadore, and good morning to listeners of GBN. It's a pleasure to be with you on this day.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Bullen, how is Carriacou this morning?
Carriacou is fine. I mean, it's quiet, and everything seems to be going our way.
Everything is going your way. Just to start, gentlemen, let me ask you: do you in any way buy into the perception, the ideology that history is in fact written and told in the words of the victor, and not necessarily it's a reflection of the actualities that may have occurred? Mr. Thomas?
Well, you get different perspectives. It's not only the victor. You'll find different versions of history based on the experience that a person went through. For instance, I mean, in Grenada, you get different versions of the history of the period 1783. There are those who, write from a perspective of, progress and achievement alone, and there are those who could identify the breakdown in institutions, the violations of human rights, and so you could. It is something that it depends on who is writing the history. But at the end of the day, the truth must prevail, and we must stand up and try to make sure that the truth has been revealed as to exactly what went on in society.
And I guess you both gentlemen would agree, Mr. Bullen, that it is often said that truth can either be relative or abstract. I guess depending on the person's experience, what they went through, that would be their own truth based on their experience. And then there's the absolute truth, which is the indispensable facts of what may or may not have occurred. Let's get things into perspective. Today being Thanksgiving Day, the 25th day of October. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Bullen, because it is the day that to the 25th. I'm going to allow you, if you can, sir, take me back. October 25th, 1983. As far as your mind can tell me, paint a picture for me of you being on the sister isle, and then we'll come to you, Mr. Thomas. You tell me, you woke up that day, what the experience was like for you, the sights, the songs on that day.
Actually, I was not in Carriacou on the 25th. I was in Trinidad. I arrived here about the 23rd from the United States. I was treating the lobsters in Trinidad. And immediately I got to Carriacou. I packed my bags and I headed to Trinidad. When I got to Trinidad and I checked into my guest house, the proprietor said to me, well, when I came to Carriacou, of course I knew that the bishop was under house arrest. And when I got to Trinidad, I learned that he was transported to the fort, and the proprietor of the hotel said to me, "Boy, they just kill your friend, I was amazed. Told me that Morris was dead. I mean, this was on the 25th when I got into Trinidad, and so I can't say too much about what was happening here, because I was in Trinidad.
But backtrack for me, because for you find yourself in a rather unique position as it relates to your relationship with Bishop and your relationship with Bernard Cord. And certainly for you. But talk to me about the experiences. Let's go back. As a lead up to the 19th, because very often the argument would be, in order for us to speak about the 25th, we cannot forget the 19th. in order for us to speak about the 19th, it would be unforgiving for us not to talk about what the mood, what was transpiring in the country prior to. So let's talk, if you can, Mr. Bullen, as to what the mood was like in the country prior to October the 19th, the weeks, the months before. What was the mood like?
Like I said, I was away. I was not in Caracas, but I knew what was going on.
Right.
You know, the people, they were in a state of uncertainty, I would say, because we knew that things weren't going too well between Morris and Bernard Cole. But as a matter of fact, the Cole faction, because the fact that he was imprisoned in his house said a lot, and people were very, very, very anxious. And from my perspective in the United States, is that things weren't going too well. As I said, when I arrived here and I packed my bags for Trinidad, it was not a foregone conclusion. I think the very day I arrived in Trinidad, or the day before, that's when we learned that the guys entered the fort and that Morris and company was killed. So I can't talk too much about the mood. Well, all I can say about the mood in Caracas is that people was in a state of anxiety. I mean, they were wondering what next was going to happen. And of course, what happened wasn't very pleasant.
What happened wasn't very pleasant, and we're going to get into some of those emotions. Mr. Thomas, the period of the revolution, it was a unique one for all that alive at that time. For you, we know the stories. You have personal stories of your own incarceration and your involvement. Take me back to the period, and I probably even would want to leave maybe the 19th to the 25th alone. And let's, if we can, gentlemen, for the purpose of the conversation, go back as far as we can to probably March 13th, 1979, when the revolution as it is took effect. Mr. Thomas, what gave rise to the events in your mind of March 13th, 1979?
Well, it appears that there was a breakdown of democracy in Grenada, disrespect for human rights. We've heard of several incidents where people were being beaten, and because you are not supporting the Grenada United Labour Party under Gary, they had certain people connected to the police force. They called them Mongoose Gang, they called them different names. They were abusing the authorities. Several persons got beaten by forces that were loyal to Gary for making statements or being critical. Even some of my relatives I know, they were maltreated because of the stand. So we get to the stage where it seems that the NGM and others were determined to resist what was going on. And I came back here in Grenada in 1978, I was called to the bar in 78, and by 79, the revolution took place. And I would say it's because of a disregard for the rule of law and the violation of human rights at the time. But this is why I think the revolution got a good reception initially. People was a great section of the population supported the revolution because of the disregard for human rights and democratic institutions during the Gary regime.
Break it down for me. Disregard for human rights and disregard for institutions. Gary was a loved man, wasn't he?
Yes.
So what went wrong? When and where did he go from a beloved man of the people, to what some may agree may term to be. Where did he go rogue?
Well, there's always in society, when opposition rises against those in authority, they resist. And well, as you know, the GNP was the opposing party, which was a more central, centrist type of party, not as aggressive as the NJM. So when the NJM came on the scene and they started mobilizing and organizing, Gary felt threatened. And because he felt threatened, he heightened his fight against the opposing forces by recruiting people who probably not supposed to be in the police force, and to deal with those he regard as enemies of progress.
Quite interesting. So, in your estimation, what transpired was all in an attempt to hold on to power?
By Gary, you mean?
Yes, by Gary.
Yes, it seems so. That want to get rid of his opponents, and that's not the best thing in a democratic society. There should be dialogue, and we debate the issues, we respect the institutions, we should respect the rights of others. But that under Gary, that was not what Gary went to the extent where several persons, citizens of Grenada, their properties were acquired without any compensation, and that is so unfair to hard-working people. They have to go to the court and spend lots of monies to regain the property and to get the compensation.
Are those
the government in authority to respect the citizen?
Are those events that took place in actuality, or are they speculative moments? Can we go on record as saying it did happen?
No, they're not speculative moments, because my father's property was acquired. As a matter of fact, Maurice Bishop initially represented my father at the first stage before the matter went to appeal. So he documented several persons, that Gary regarded as not supporting him. He deprived them of the property. Government, there are times when you acquire property for public purpose, but there must be compensation. You can't just acquire people property without compensating them.
Mr. Bullen, we've heard a lot of the Mongoose Gang. We've heard a lot of things. What can you share with us from your recollection, and if you can, though, because I know you were good friends with both Bishop and Cord. What sort of recollection do you have from that period as it relates to the Mongoose Gang and that period, and of course with the coming together of the New Jewel movement, your relationship with Bishop and Cord prior to where it actually went wrong? What can you recount for us?
Well, Bernard Cord was a classmate of mine. We went to school together at GBSS. Morris I knew through my brothers who went to Presentation College, because that's where Morris went to school. And what I know is that Gary's boys was on the rampage, because, as he became more violent, the NJM, the New Jewel movement, escalated the resistance. As a matter of fact, there was a meeting in Grenville, I think it was, and there's a lot of violence. Morris was beaten badly, he had to be hospitalized, and a number of other people. So we knew that things were escalating, things were going real bad. That is our perspective from Carriacou. And I kept in touch with the guys, so I knew what was going on. Anyway, I cannot speak very clearly on what happened on the night they took over the country. What I know is I went to bed with my radio by my side. About 5 o'clock in the morning, I heard an announcement that the Gary government was overthrown. So I listened again because I wasn't so sure that I was hearing right. Anyway, the announcement came over again, and it was the same thing. So I jumped out of my bed. I jumped over my the fence, my yard fence, and went across to my brother and asked him to turn on his radio because something momentous was going on. So he did, and I came back home and so on, and I was just listening as the morning grew brighter. You know, here now, because I think one of the things they did was they went and they acquired the radio station. That's the New Jewel movement. And from there they made all the announcements. So anyhow, while listening, the voice of Phyllis Cole came on. And she said to me, go and collect the keys for the armory at the police station. So I said to her, I couldn't do that without them making an announcement. So they made an announcement that the keys should be handed over to me. After I heard that announcement, I went across to the police station and asked them for the keys. The head of the department was not in at the time. The second in command said to me, well, he doesn't have the keys. So I asked him, who has the keys? He told me. The head of the department was a part farmer. He went to look after his animals in Bel Air. I went up there to check him out. And I told him that, you know what happened? And I came for the keys. Well, it's only then I realized what power does. Because it diminishes some and it elevates some. I mean, the point is, I knew this guy well. We were not close friends, but we were, we would say hi and hello. So when I asked him for the keys, he said he didn't have it. I said, but you're supposed to have it. The guy literally genuflected to me. It's like he was begging me pardon. I said, listen, man, this is Lyle Bullen talking to you. We used to call each other country. I said, this is country talking to you. I said, you don't have to demean yourself like that. Just hand over the keys. He said, well, he really doesn't have it. And he pointed to me who I should check on in the police station. Yeah, so I came back down. I collected the keys, and I transmitted that information to, I can't remember who it is, if it was Phyllis or whoever, but I let them know that I was holding the keys for the armory.
But let me ask you, though, the events of March 13th, was it something, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Bullen, that anyone saw coming? Were there any telltale signs? Was there any whispers? That, listen, something was impending. Maybe you didn't know when and where. Yes, there was a general state of discontentment. But was it something that anyone saw coming? 79.
I didn't see anything like that coming. It took me by surprise. So that when I got the call, it's only then I realized that things are very, very serious.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all. It took me by surprise too. As a matter of fact, on the evening of the afternoon of the 12th of March, 1979, I used to be around with Bishop Ann Radix. Kenrick Radix, the late Kenrick Radix, may he rest in peace, he gave me a file to appear in court for him the following morning. That was the 13th. It's supposed to be 13th. I took the file. It was a criminal matter. At that time, I was living at Happy Hill, so I got up about 3 o'clock in the morning to go through the file because I'm new to this matter. And while I was going through this file, I put on my radio, and there I heard announcements about the government is being overthrown, and that's the only time I really, got to know what really was going on. I had no idea as to what was going on behind the scenes.
The events of 79 what was the initial reaction by the people, the mood of the people upon when the new dual movement took over? What was the mood like on the ground?
I think that people were elated because they knew. I mean, people knew exactly what was going on with the repression and the beatings by the Mongoose gang and others, and they were elated.
Some have argued that the stories of the Mongoose gang were heavily overrated and exaggerated.
Well, they were violent. They were violent in nature. I mean, I don't know if they were armed, but I know anywhere they went, they struck fear in the hearts of a lot of people. So,
Mr. Thomas,
I don't know.
And I guess you could.
A section of the population was jubilant. Another section was not happy at all. They were quite angry, and there are those who felt that response was not necessary. You had to resist, Gary, but not to the extent of overthrowing a government and depriving the citizens of the constitutional right. There was need for a struggle, but at the same time, I think it went too far in my view. We had to resist, but we have to think about the preservation of life and the preservation of our institutions.
So that's an interesting analysis that you've actually given there, that while you recognize the need to resist, the need for change, you were saying that the way it was done, that in your estimation was not necessarily called for.
No, not necessarily called for.
Mr. Bullen, you share the same thoughts?
Not really. Things were so bad. I believe, well, as a matter of fact, it was really calculated because Gary was out of the island at the time, and the guys apparently prepared themselves, and they marched to the barracks where the soldiers were, and they made the presence felt. I think they put out a couple of shots and so on, and then they got the barracks to surrender. Then they went to the radio station and made all the announcements, and they announced to all the police stations that they should put up the white flag, I think it was, as an act of surrender. And well, of course, I guess everybody took it to heart. I mean, all the policemen took it to heart. There were one or two that resisted, but from there on, it was a question of escalating the momentum of the revolution.
And thus it was the official start of the reign of the new dual movement. Some say you live by the sword, you die by the sword. It's exactly 8 minutes, it's exactly 8 o'clock in the studio of Classic 105.5 and 105.9. We take a quick commercial break, in which time we'll join the BBC for a brief bulletin of news, and then we return with Mr. Tillman Thomas and Mr. Lyle Bullen as we reflect. We have a few questions that's coming via the social media platform. We try to attend to them and certainly entertain your comments as it is, as we reflect on the period that was 1979 to 1983. Quick commercial break. Well, we break for a commercial break on television, and first here on radio, you get a bulletin of news from the BBC.
Continue breastfeeding after an emergency or disaster. Breast milk provides all the nutrients your baby needs for the first 6 months of life. Breastfeeding is safest for babies at a time when water may be limited and unsafe. No need to worry about mixing formula. Breast is best. Forget the rest. A message from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council in collaboration with the Ministry of Health with support from PAHO.
Introducing Color by Sissons. Color by Sissons. Color by Sissons. Color by Sissons. Color Color by Sissons.
We support you at every stage of your life.
For business,
for your education,
for your financial freedom,
for that new ride.
Upgrade your life with the Communal. Contact us today.
Imagine having the home of your dreams. Imagine investing in that piece of property you can call your own. Imagine finally doing that home improvement project you've always been thinking about. It's time to stop imagining and start doing. Let the GUT Credit Union help you take the first step with fantastic rates, affordable repayments, and reduced legal fees. Make the move. Get better terms on your mortgage. Use your home equity to make those dreams a reality. Act now. There's really no place like home. GUT Credit Union. It's where you belong.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements? Or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 for 18-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Fallage, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
Hills and Valley Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Sonatogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
Get Rubigas. Get cooking. Rubigas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Rubigas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Rubigas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Rubigas?
Get Rubis, get going.
Welcome back to the program. 4 minutes gone past in the morning time. For those of you just joining us, my guest this morning is Mr. Tillman Thomas and Mr. Lyle Bullen. Gentlemen, thank you and welcome back to the program. We've talked about the mood, the general state of discontent, and what some may see may have been a mixed reaction to the events that initially transpired on March 13, 1979, in terms of the overthrow of Gary. Started back with you, Mr. Thomas, because we talked about the role of the Mongoose Gang, we talked about everything else. But even during that period, you yourself, you've had your own special encounters with law enforcement during those times, didn't you?
I was more involved in the court matters on the human rights front. When I came back, I was really, as a young practitioner, I was involved in assisting on the human rights front. I represented one or two persons. And as a matter of fact, I was associated with an organization called the Caribbean Human Rights and Legal Aid Organization, which was set up by regional persons, including Maurice Bishop, who were interested in human rights.
Talk to us. So you said that. So Maurice is himself, because I've heard some interesting stories about Maurice as it is, that you keep hearing during that period. You heard of the term counter. You either, and it's interesting that it was the same sort of analogy that was made from the Gary period, where Gary it's said, of course, had his mongoose gang to make sure that he held on to power. Their stories, and you gentlemen can rearrange it and put it in perspective for me. But we've heard some rather harrowing stories regarding bishops during, the revolution itself, in their quest to keep people subdued.
Yeah, well, this is where I had problems with the revolutionary authorities. For me, humanity is humanity. A human being is a human being. Human rights violations were criticized under the Gary regime. But during the revolution, the same rights were being violated. And I couldn't be a hypocrite. I wanted to stand up for what I believe in. So when I saw innocent people were being detained and some of them abused, I spoke out, and I was seen as a counter-revolutionary. But that doesn't matter. Label doesn't affect me really. Once I know what I'm doing is in the best interest of humanity and our country. So I was seen that way, and when I was approached by Les Pierre to get involved in publishing a newspaper, I welcome that because I believe in the democratic institutions in our society. So together with Lloyd Noel and Les Pierre, when they rest in peace, they both have died, they got involved in the publication of the Grenadian Voice. And after the first publication, we were detained.
Take me through that experience as it is. So the paper was published, your detention, and everything as it went along with it.
After the paper was published sometime in late June, on the 11th of July, 1981, soldiers just appeared at my yard of Hermitage and told me they came to take me for questioning. Well, they took me from Hermitage to Sautels. There's a fort in Sautels. Spent a few hours there. Then later in the morning, they took me down to St. George's. And when I appeared at St. George's, there was a big sheet at the Fort George. When they opened up the gate, as I walked in, I saw Lloyd Noel and Les Pierre sitting there. I had to laugh because I thought I was alone. Yeah. And from that day, we ended up spending 2 years and 3 months behind bars.
What was that like for you, though? Realizing that the very essence of what you stood for, the values that you stood for, those were the very same values that got you, that had you thrown behind bars.
Yeah, but for me, I know that, that I believe in certain things. I didn't let that really bother me much. I read a lot and I got involved in yoga. I exercised daily and I read. I spent most of my time exercising and reading. I didn't really, because I knew there was nothing, I didn't know anything out of the way. It was just, an unfortunate thing that Grenada, the country had gone on a path that was not in the best interest of the people of the country.
Quite interesting.
So many innocent persons were being detained. You see young people from all, and the sad thing about it is that, in the revolution, they were championing and attacking the so-called bourgeoisie. When you look around, the people who were detained at the Richmond prison were rural, poor people. Montreat, Moncton, all parts of the rural Grenada, because some of these people stood up and take an independence stand, they were being deprived. And, at the end of the day, I always felt that that couldn't prevail. Something deep in me told me that this injustice would not prevail forever.
Quite interesting. Mr. Bullen Mr. Thomas given us sharing us a rather harrowing experiences there. Anything that you can speak to? Some says when we moved from the pre-March 13th era to the post-March 13th era, it was just the same side of a different story, same coin, but just a different face.
I disagree. Point is, the New Doodle movement has been placating Gary for a long time. And of course, they realized that just placating him wasn't taking him any place. So when they made their move on March 13th, and they took some very stringent measures, and they realized that a number of people would be against them. So they, you see, a revolution is not just a simple change of government. They had to put things in place to ensure that the revolution would stand up.
And when you say things in place, what exactly are you referring to as things in place? Would you in any way suggest, hint to the fact that the unlawful arrest of individuals should have been part of that plan? Take care of your enemies, or else they would come back and get you.
The thing is, there was a lot of opposition elements, and of course they weren't part of the revolution, and they stood up and made their voices heard. Now the revolution decided they would not brook at this sort of a behavior, because it seems to them that some of the people wanted to turn back the revolution, and they felt that it went too far. And they had matters all worked out, and they wanted to change the society, which in fact they did to a very large extent.
When you say change society, because to me it may seem almost hypocritical that the very essence of what you stood against, the repression under the Gary regime, that you were engaging and endorsing the very same behavior. So when you say change the society, in what exactly are you referring to?
They wanted to make a more just society. And the point is, if you stood up against them, it means turning back the revolution. And they couldn't brook that. As a matter of fact, the remaining 4 years proved them to be right. The changes they made, the things they did for the country, exonerate whatever harsh, because a revolution is not child's play. Some people get killed. As a matter of fact, Grenada's revolution was referred to as a peaceful revolution.
So in your estimation, it was done for the greater good of the country. The repression that took place, it was done for the greater good.
I don't know if you'd call it repression, but they stood up against opposition that seems bent on turning back the revolution. And they would have none of that, because they made too many sacrifices to bring the country to where they got it, and to allow anyone to spread the news that things were going bad or anything like that. And so they stamped on, as they say, they stamped on that.
They literally put their foot down. So let me ask the question though: the revolution, as it was more, because you keep hearing that, and that's where I guess the confusion comes in. Gary loved by the people, he oppressed them. Maurice loved by the people, yet there was oppression. Was the revolution about the people themselves, the masses, or was it more about men getting in power with an ideology and an agenda to fulfill? Mr. Bullen, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Thomas. It seems to me that's all it was about. They had an agenda.
Yes, they had an agenda. The agenda was to push the country forward, and they did so. I mean, you have to realize that in every year following the revolution, the budget, which used to be $15 million, the very first year it moved to about 30 million. By the second year, it was about 90 million, and it just kept escalating. You had free secondary education. You had they organized the country, right? You had women's group. You have the Center for Popular Education, CPE, that's educating all the people, all the masses. You know, the point is, they say an educated people is a liberated people. And they were bent on educating the country and moving the country forward economically, which they did. I mean, the international airport just didn't happen there. You know, it took a lot of planning, and the hundreds of scholarships that was given to students to go abroad and study just didn't happen.
It was an agenda, you say, Mr. Bullen, but an agenda that was seemingly void of human rights and fraught with violations. Was it intended to make Grenada a more open, freer, democratic state, or was there a more something a little bit more suspect in what in what the revolution actually had in mind?
I know the revolution had in mind making the country a free and prosperous country.
Free and prosperous country. Mr. Thomas, I see you there. You're listening to Mr. Bullen. There were given times you agreeing, and other moments you saying, no can do.
Yeah, I have to disagree with some of the things Mr. Bullen said. I agree that there was some economic improvement, there was some positive things happen, people got scholarships and so on, but the first thing we have to recognize it is that it is man for the economy and not the economy for man. You cannot sacrifice human being for physical and material improvement. I would never accept this. All the things that were achieved during the revolution, they could have been achieved without the human sufferings that Grenada went through. And again, Joseph, you to yourself, if there was a structure for dialogue and participation within the process, the leader of the revolution would not have ended up as a counter-revolutionary. It shows that, you see the contradiction. I was a counter-revolution in 1979, 1980. By 83, Maurice Bishop became a counter-revolution. So you see, I mean, if there was a structure or system for dialogue, communication, and understanding, dealing with things, but they were caught up with ideology. And the Marxist ideology is to extinguish your opponents, and that is the danger. Humanity, I mean, you must think about human beings, whatever you are doing, and you should not put it's the same thing like with the COVID. You cannot put economic gains before the human beings. Human beings must come first. Yeah, that is something that we always have to bear in mind. And as I say, the very fact that Maurice Bishop ended up as a counter-revolutionary is clear evidence that those of us who took the stand we were on the right track.
we talk about, gentlemen, the progress that was made during that 4.5 year period, and in the histories that show that it was Grenada was the fastest growing economy during that period. And there's some elements of it that I think we can all collectively agree that we cannot. It's there forever. We cannot change what happened. We knew that. Would you agree, though, as we look at the revolution, and we have to take a break in just a bit, though, that we have regressed as a country, given the strides that were made, notwithstanding whether are we going to get into some of the ideological differences and the split that took place that gave rise to the faction. But do you think, gentlemen, that we've regressed as a country, given the strides that was made during the revolution, that Grenada was set off on a trajectory for unheralded economic progress, and somewhere we've missed the mark? Mr. Bullen?
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. The thing is, I could understand Mr. Thomas's position. I mean, trade unions and all that, we took care of all that. And economically, we were making strides, you know. We had, agriculture was improved. You have agro-processing plants. And the airport was designed to take our goods out to the international markets, something that we never had before. You know? So, I mean, the human rights question would have been settled eventually.
So the human rights questions would have been settled. Is that actually true, given the ideological perspective, the varied ideological perspective that is, as it's said, that was shared by Bishop and Cord, and what eventually led to an arrangement for splitting of power, shared power? Can we talk for the next few minutes about those ideological differences? And I'm hoping, Mr. Bullen, because you are intimate with both gentlemen, let's talk about the ideology, the mindset of these two gentlemen. Bishop Cord.
I don't know that they had a different ideology. They were both very socialist bent, and their programs reflected that. And somewhere along the line, apparently, from what I learned afterwards, Bernard Code seemed to have wanted the leadership, and was able to influence a number of the military guys to come on his side. And Bishop decided he's not just going to bow to that. And the split occurred. They had him under house arrest, and of course the rest is history.
The rest is history. 25 minutes gone past the hour. History indeed it was, because history clearly spelled out what transpired from then onwards. We want to address the issue of the trajectory that Grenada was on, the path it was on, the role of the international airport and its construction, and the supposed view, the way Grenada was viewed in the eyes of the world at large, coming from on the back of what was the Cold War period and the relationship between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. What role did that have to play, if any at all, in the eventual demise of the revolution? We take a quick commercial break. My guest this morning, gentlemen, I'll be back with you, Mr. Tillman Thomas and Mr. Lyle Bullen. Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for quality herbs and herbal supplements, or are you thinking about having a complete body cleanse to jumpstart your health? Then no need to look further. Visit Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. We carry a wide range of herbal products for kidney and gallstone cleansing, male sexual enhancement formulas, asthma and sinusitis, gas and bloating, acid reflux, constipation, arthritis, imbalanced hormones, female health issues, liver cleansing, weight loss, and so much more. Also available, colonic irrigation, holistic health consultations, essential oils, and diffusers. Look out for our online natural health store coming soon. Call 231-6642 for 18-7115 or 449-7753 to find out about our delivery options or to book an appointment. Visit us at Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge, Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic. Detox your way to health.
What does it take to be an amazing woman? Lots of me time. Amazing women are classy, fancy, and a little sassy. It's the drink for me. Cheers! Sometimes you've got to show them who's boss. Alpha male? Nah, alpha females are more amazing. Cheers to securing the bag. We make time for ourselves, for work, friends, and we certainly make time for passion. We're simply amazing. Amazing cream liqueur for the amazing woman in you.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
You can now send a gift card to your loved ones locally or internationally thanks to the food fair. Here's how it works. Click the gift card icon or banner, customize your gift card by choosing from different templates, dollar amount, and personalized messages. You can also upload your personal design. Select add to cart and complete transaction. Allow relatives and friends to pick up an item or items at the food fair for the dollar value. Gift card. It's that easy.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment. As you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest, visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Welcome back, gentlemen, welcome back. Before the break, we talked about the ideology, we highlighted the progress, the economic progress that was being made in Grenada, and it was economic progress juxtaposed against what many saw were a number of human rights violation. Mr. Bullen, you said it was for the greater good. There was an agenda. Mr. Thomas, your position was literally, at some point in time, something had to give. Something had to give. Progress was being made economically, no doubt. There was code wanting power, and an arrangement was made. Just hold for me. I have a caller on the line, gentlemen. Good morning, caller. You're alive. Your thoughts, please.
Joe, I'm very, very glad that you said progress was made. But what is, I don't want to comment on much on that. But what is progress for one might be a failure for another. I like Mr. Thomas' way of discussing this situation. He is very honest. Now, I look at a lot of things too. In every man, there is good and evil. And most things with leaders, they want people to carry out what they say, irrespective of if their ideas are not good. And they want to rule. In fact, human beings or man want to be a leader, even if they are not capable of to be a leader, because you could only see as far as your eyes could see. In other words, the educated people, or the so-called educated, education has a limit. What one sees, another one will see. So what good for one might be bad for the other. In fact, especially in politics, everybody wants to say his idea is superior to the other. Now, even at present, at this moment, we have people who are against Kit, and we have people who supported him. And Mr. Thomas made the point. And even your Mr. Bullen is saying the same thing, that some people like Code, some people like Bishop. So you expect those things, but that doesn't mean to say that you have the right to throw over or to rule by the gun, or to try to take over a country by the gun. Okay. This is not honesty, this is not sincerity, and this is not living in accordance with the God of the laws of man and the laws of God and the laws of nature.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. All the best to you. 29 minutes gone past the hour in the morning time. Gentlemen, we getting right back to it. Some have argued that the revolution, and we've stated the premise, but some have argued that even putting it into a bigger context, given historically where on the international arena, what was happening, coming off the heels of the Cold War, the relationship between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, there are those who've argued that ultimately the revolution, the direction, Grenada's relationship with countries like Libya, Cuba, the Soviet Union, there are those who've argued ultimately this was doomed to failure, and whether or not it was worth it at all. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, I think it was doomed to fail. Historically, well, look at, we are part of the CARICOM community. We are part of the Commonwealth. Our tradition has been a democratic tradition. To set up a system where no dissent is being tolerated, no freedom of expression, I couldn't see that continuing in Grenada, surrounded by all these democratic countries. And I believe that if the revolution had been more tolerant of dissent, Maurice Bishop and them might have been saved. You see, they stifle everything. They operate as a secret society. I mean, had the Grenadian Voice been given the permission to continue, that might have shed some light and enlightened people and inform them of what's happening in the society.
What is the immediate takeaway from that, though? Is there any lessons that we can take away from that period that should serve as a guiding light for us in our modern construct?
Yeah, the first takeaway that we have to always preserve and protect our democratic institutions. That you know, the rule of law. Because there was no respect for the rule of law, and that's why they could just go and pick you up and go with you and do whatever they want. So this is why I really got involved in politics after I came from prison. I felt that we should never let our country go on this way. We should always protect our democratic institutions, and people should have the right to express themselves. To go along with those in authority at all times.
Having the right to express themselves. Mr. Bullen, do you agree or do you object categorically?
yes, people have the right to express themselves. But the point is, the revolution was in a very precarious position. And just harboring any serious opposition would have been difficult. And as I say, these things take time. Everything took time. I mean, even the institutions that they built, Grenada became a very organized country. It was disorganized before.
But that we have agreed, though. But what I wanted, the point I was asking, given where the world was at that time, that transitionary period from the Cold War era, and the relationship, understand what was happening historically, the U.S., the divide between the East and the West. And now Grenada, little Caribbean island, path to the Commonwealth, going off in a certain path. Some have argued that ultimately we were going to come at loggerheads with the supreme powers that be at that time. Do you agree?
I don't agree, because the point is, I know Morris made several attempts. He wrote several letters to Ronald Reagan, asking to exchange ambassadors. He pointed out, any modern society, that is what goes on. He always got a negative, he never got a reply, as a matter of fact. He visited the United States on a number of occasions and spoke to Grenadians and letting them know what's happening. To me, it's the freest thing I've ever seen. No leader used to be going abroad and educating the people abroad, because in the United States, you have a lot of people from Grenada, Caribbean, Beach, Martinique. And the crowds used to be filling the venues. And if America just didn't want to harbor us, as a matter of fact, they actively campaigned against the revolution. And they had all sorts of things to say, and they didn't do anything positive.
When you say they actively campaigned against the revolution, what exactly are you pointing to?
I cannot at this time give you any concrete example, but I know the point is, propaganda is not something out there. They did it sort of clandestinely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And by the actions, they showed the disregard and the disrespect and so on for the revolution.
Just hold the line, gentlemen. Just give me one moment. Good morning, caller. 25 minutes on to the hour. You're live. Hello, caller.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You're live. Your comments,
I'm
please.
listening to these two gentlemen there, Mr. Thomas and Mr. Bullen. And Mr. Bullen seems to do not sure up what he's saying. I don't understand what Mr. Bullen is saying.
What exactly, when you say you don't understand what he's saying, what exactly are you referring to?
Well, you just ask him a question there, and he telling you, in what he said, he just said that America was campaigning against Grenada, and he cannot prove it.
So is that something you would want to add to the conversation?
Well, I'm adding to the conversation that I'm not gaining understanding what Mr. Bullen is saying. The revolution started up on a failure. It ended up on a failure. And it became a failure. I am not saying that the revolution didn't do some things that are good. There were good things coming from the revolution. But it started up on a failure. Two leaders was fighting for the same position. And we can't deny that. That was proven.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. This caller is saying ultimately it was doomed to fail. And again, I want to encourage folks that once you call, we may not necessarily agree with each other's position, but let us try to respect. Let's respect each other's position. We don't have to agree, but we are going to respect. Yes, gentlemen. Let's go back. I have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Hi. Good morning, Joe, and to guests this morning.
Good morning.
Very interesting discussion. I think that the idea of getting rid of gay, but I guess the guys figured that they couldn't go through the, and of course, to use.
I'm losing you, caller.
Okay, let me try to come a bit closer to my base. Yes, I think they felt that the system was rigged and it would be difficult for them to accomplish that. Are you better? Hear me better now?
A little better, but could you probably you on a mobile device?
Right. No.
Okay. No.
At the moment, let me turn off my other device as I come closer, so there won't be any feedback. 1 moment, please.
22 minutes on to the hour of 8 o'clock in the morning time. A special Thanksgiving Good Morning program for you. Yes, sir. Caller, are you there?
Yes. The whole idea was that I think that the guys were a bit naive on 2 points. First of all, you can't be at the middle of the road. You're either on the left or on the right. And as they say, if you're in the middle of the road, you get run over. They were naive into thinking that you can have a Caribbean state, a Marxist or a leftist Caribbean state on terms with America and everywhere else. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to be somewhere. And what they wanted to do was not realistic. It was not practical.
Okay.
So, secondly, they were naive in that they were aware of or cognizant of what was happening globally in terms of the Cold War. The Eastern Bloc was on its way down. So you're holding on to something that's falling. And I think those two things meant, as in reference to a question you asked earlier on, that it was doomed to fail.
Okay.
The whole concept of what they wanted to do was not practical, and the time in which they were trying to do it was not realistic or wise. However, the idea was a good one. But it had to be carefully managed, and it had to be very realistic. And I think Morris could have done an excellent job if he hadn't that sort of undermining from within.
Great.
That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, sir. Gentlemen, keeping our eyes on the clock, 18 minutes onto the hour. Is that, some would say, that's what happens when capitalism goes head-to-head with socialism? At some point, something had to give. What are the takeaways? The takeaways, gentlemen. Good morning, Lydia. What are the takeaways? Because I know it's a conversation that is ongoing. There is so much that there have been commentators that they've argued that can be taken away from the revolution as it was, that can be adapted into our current construct. Mr. Bullen, what are the takeaways from the revolution that you see can fit smack dead and is workable within our current environment?
I don't see anything wrong with an organized society. Revolution organized this society. They organized agriculture, they organized education, they organized agro-industries. The whole country was organized. I mean, the point is you couldn't get everybody to agree with you. Particularly, it's a revolution you're talking about. And some hard decisions had to be taken. You wouldn't allow somebody to go on a platform in the market square and start running down the revolution and talking about its evils and all that and accept it while you're trying to build a society. So, I mean, my takeaway is that this country need to be organized somewhat similar to the organizations we had during the time of the revolution.
Do you? Okay. That sort of organizing that you're referring to, do you think that is something that is really and truly practical in the 21st century and literally workable?
I would like to know what is impractical about advancing agriculture. I want to know what's impractical about advancing education.
Human rights violation, restricting the rights and the voice of the people.
No, the point is, as I say, it's an ongoing process.
Okay.
You take over a country and you wouldn't just allow everybody to run free and say what they want, when they want, and in any place they want. So the thing is, it takes time. And as the years go, things will be getting better and better.
Left up to you, we'll do it all over again?
Of course.
Just hold that thought. They have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning to you.
I'm willing to learn, and I'm learning. But from my experience, I'm aged. I don't know what you mean by that. Revolution means great change. And we do not expect things to happen and to make great changes in a twinkling of an eye. We have to educate people to make changes. Even now, with the virus, see how the Prime Minister, to me, is in trouble to get people to take vaccination. And as you would say, since King Hatchet was a hammer, then they were getting vaccination. Yet for all, people don't know about vaccination, as I said, and yet for all, we are not accepting it, or the majority. So do we expect to accept a revolution with rapid change? And this is what Bishop and them were doing. And nobody cannot say that there wouldn't have been 3-4 airports if Gary or if Mr. Tillman or somebody else was ruling. Because nobody except your God knows what would happen tomorrow morning or in the next 10 years. So please don't come and tell me that there wouldn't be an airport and an airport couldn't be built. There might have been 10 airports. It depends on who rule. And it depends on the aim in life and what they want to be successful and what they want to be known as.
Great, thank you very much. 15 minutes on to the hour. A lot of comments. I want to say good morning to Kipling Francis, Leisure Cameron, Yulian Alexander, those of you that's locked in via YouTube. Good morning to you, my wonderful people, and those of you that is locked in on the Facebook page. Gentlemen, the revolution reminds me of an old literature book that I read, A Tale of Two Cities. And there's an old adage that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts even more. Mr. Thomas, is the revolution, we continue to look at the takeaways. And the truth is, where we are, it has already happened. It has already happened. There was the highs, and the lows. Let's talk about lessons, positive lessons that we can adapt and share with our young people. I'm going to allow you to churn on that for just a bit, but let me engage this caller that is here. We lost that one. Well, what are the takeaways? Active takeaways, honestly, that we can be able to say, you know what, this is good, that was bad, this can help society, this will never work.
Yeah, there are some positives from the revolution, like, for instance, voluntarism. After the revolution, I've never seen...
Mr. Thomas, can you just move to your left a bit, please? We're losing you a bit. Great, that's better. Thank you.
Yeah, voluntarism is something I think that we could learn from the revolution. But again, it depends on the spirit of the people. But during that period, communities were getting together and clean up their communities, do work together. You see a sense of patriotism. That was going quite well, that side of it. Again, the initiative in the agribusiness, that is another initiative that could be still pursued, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you recall that Maurice Bishop used to say, we're going to process of cocoa, and we're going to call it Milo. But right now, there's a company that set up, a chocolate factory right in Hermitage, and they do a product called Milo. So there's nothing stopping us from getting involved in agribusiness with the revolution initiated. I recall they used to process codfish, saltfish, use I think shark and these things. People could get involved in cooperative and do this thing still. The revolution initiated this thing, and on the educational front. I mean, the scholarships are still available. Of course, the CPE was special in the sense that they still had, I think, systems whereby people are being educated at that level. But the CPE was an excellent initiative and to provide opportunities for people to get education. But this continues. The people still get the scholarship and they go and improve themselves. So there are some positives, I say, from especially the patriotism and that community spirit. You didn't have to have government debushers coming in villages. The people take on a Sunday morning, people get together and they clean up the villages and everything was, that was quite impressive, and I like that aspect of what was taking place there. But at the same time, Joseph, you need that balance. You have to respect the citizens of the country. I heard Brother Bullen said that the President of the United States didn't respect the revolution, but the revolution did not respect its own citizens. And I think that was the major point that you have, people being treated as if there's no system of redress, no rule of law. How long you want to continue this for? And this, I find that there was an opportunity for the revolution to amend this and preserve itself. The revolution didn't have to end up as it ended. It's a sad thing for all of us.
Society,
that could have been avoided.
Society is for all of us. You have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please, sir.
Yeah, I joined your conversation a little later, but from what I'm hearing, Mr. Thomas is making sense. Mr. Bullen, I don't want to go say piggyback on anything or say criticize anybody, but I lived the revolution. I was pre-revolution, and I'm now after revolution. And yes, there are some takeaways from the revolution that was good for Grenada. But all in all, I think the revolution has changed us not for the better in some instances, but for the worst. Because one, we suffer from a massive brain drain in Grenada. That I attribute to the revolutionary process. Two, the discipline that we was treading on pre-revolution, that has disappeared. We could do whatever we want in Grenada today, and we'll never be able to get our people to go back to the work style, the lifestyle of work that we used to have prior to the revolution. Prior to the revolution, we had a unity. We didn't have to beg people to work, and people volunteered to work and the like. Voluntarism didn't come because of the revolution. It was there. The revolution made voluntarism there. And after the revolution, all that disappeared.
Okay.
You understand? So Grenadian people now are not the same. The people that we're dealing with in our today Grenada is not the people that I knew in Grenada prior to the revolution. That's a different thing. Yes, it brought some education, but we would have had it anyway.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Development, we would have had it anyway. So all the things that's being said and being done, we should not be thinking about going back there. We should be thinking about going forward in a different way. The things that's happening today, most of it I can attribute to the revolution. Fine. Those of us who think that it was good for us, yes, it was good for us then because that's what we believed in. And those of us who think that it's not good for us, it's not good for us because we knew better. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, sir. Gentlemen, the question is always going into rage on as to whether or not the revolution, Mr. Bullen, you saying it was a great initiative. I think history literally highlights what happens when socialism comes head to head with capitalism, and that's where I think the conversation of the the varied ideology comes into play. Gentlemen, we're almost out of time. It's about 5 minutes onto the hour. I'm going to give each of you 2 minutes just to summarize your position as we reflect, and if possible, we can look what happened during the revolution and probably try to offer some hope politically, some hope socially for tomorrow, for the greater good of the country. Is there hope for Grenada as we look forward, as we use today to reflect on the past 38 years, what we've been through, and where we are as a people? Mr. Bullen.
Yes, I mean, I've enumerated some of the things that we implemented, which can still go on. Now, some of your callers said that the revolution started as a failure and ended as a failure, which I don't agree with. The revolution ended when infighting started within the hierarchy of the movement. And hadn't it been for that, I believe the revolution would have been prevailed, and then Grenada would have been in a much better position, because we employed some of the very best people, to come to implement all of the different programs we had, CP, and other programs. And the thing is, I don't know if we could, I guess we could replicate some of these things, but the point is, as I say, it takes organization, it takes commitment, and it takes people who know what they're about. So,
organization and people who know what they're about. Thank you, Mr. Bullen. Mr. Thomas, your final thoughts?
My final thought that we should focus a lot on building and strengthening our democratic institution. There is hope. If you look at after the collapse of the revolution in Grenada, there was the fall of the Bullen Wall, the Russian system, the whole Eastern Europe. Man wants to be free. Man wants to live in a democratic society. Democracy has its shortcomings, but at the same time, it is still a system that we need to build and promote for safety and security. So I want to urge that all of us get involved in the process. Once we're involved in the process and express ourselves, we could guard our society. Whereas when we keep away, we get rogues and so take control and ruin our institutions, and at the end of the day, we all end up in difficulties. So participation in the democratic process is something that is crucial for our safety, security, and survival.
3 minutes on to the hour. Thank you, gentlemen. My guests this morning, thank you, former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas and Mr. Lyle Bullen. Gentlemen, indeed, it was a pleasure, and I'm really, 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 really happy that you took from your time to share with us. I'm hoping for those of you that were listeners and the viewers that we were able to enlighten you, not just on the events of the past, but certainly to create a picture for you that notwithstanding what we've gone through, our history, there's always a path forward, that we use, of course, the memories, the history of our path as an opportunity, as a glaring opportunity, as that which should, as an opportunity to make us realize that, yes, while we may have differences within any society, it's important that the rule of law and respect for each other, they remain central elements of who we are as a society. Whenever we lose that element of respect, it shows what happens. Differences, yes. Sometimes we have to agree to disagree. Accept the fact that we've come a long way, as the Flying Turkey said, but indeed we have a long, long way to go. As you go through this period of rest and reflection on Thanksgiving Day, let us ask ourselves the question, what can we do to become better versions of ourselves? What can we do for our country, as William Churchill did ask, and not necessarily what our country can do for us? Gentlemen, thank you. Really appreciate it. All the best to you. For our listeners and viewers, and Joseph Cadore, I say thanks for being part of the broadcast. I'll continue with you on radio up until 10. God bless everybody. Again, happy Thanksgiving Day.